Hey guys, good morning. Welcome back to our channel, the Eaton Squad. So on today's video is about the recommendation of the OCTA Research for a 14-day mandatory quarantine for returning overseas Filipinos amid the new variant of COVID-19 in the country. Details coming right up. So this news is not so good news since OCTA Research is recommending a 14-day mandatory quarantine to all returning Filipinos. So this is for both OFWs and non-OFWs coming into the country to undergo a 14 days mandatory quarantine or more because of the new variant of COVID-19 in the Philippines. The current arrival protocol right now is you have to be quarantined at least 7 days in a hotel facility, and you will be swabbed on the 6th day after you arrived in the Philippines. Now they are recommending a longer quarantine because of the threat of the new variant of COVID-19 in the Philippines. So let's go over the details of this recommendation from the OCTA Research Group. The OCTA Research Group on Wednesday recommended the strict enforcement of mandatory quarantine period for returning Filipinos amid threats of new COVID-19 variants in other countries. In an interview with CNN Philippines, OCTA fellow Dr. Guido David pushed for a 14-day isolation or even longer for countrymen coming from abroad to prevent a further rise in cases. We echoed that recommendation to have mandatory 14-day or even longer quarantine period. I know it's costly to have quarantines and this would be tiring to our returning Filipinos. But at the same time, we cannot allow a surge to happen because we are not willing to make tough decisions. David was reacting to reports that a new coronavirus variant detected in France was more difficult to detect through standard tests. Media company France 24 reported in March that French authorities are investigating a new variant found in the Western Brittany region, but noted that it currently does not appear to be more dangerous or contagious. I think the 7 days quarantine is enough. But to add more to it and make it 14 days mandatory quarantine to all our returning Filipinos here in the Philippines is a bit outrage. Our kababayans go home to the Philippines to see their family that they haven't seen for such a long time. That doesn't mean that they have millions of dollars that they brought with them when they go to the Philippines. And we all know, being in a quarantine, undergo a swab testing and stuff like that is very expensive. So the 7 days mandatory quarantine that is currently imposed in the Philippines is already expensive. But what more with the 14 days or longer quarantine that the OCTA Research is recommending? I wish they would think of all our kababayans who wants to go home to the Philippines. How can they afford a 14-day mandatory quarantine in staying in a hotel at their own expense? So what do you think of this recommendation from the OCTA Research that they want a 14-day mandatory quarantine to all returning Filipinos coming from abroad entering the Philippines? And if ever they will really implement this, I really hope that they will coordinate with the LGU as well. Because if you already have spent 14 days in Manila or either in Cebu or in Clark International Airport, then you have to spend another 14 days mandatory quarantine on your final destination. That's a total of 28 days mandatory quarantine when you go home to the Philippines during the time of the pandemic. To me, that's a bit long, especially if you have to go through swab testing when you go home to the Philippines. So I really hope that they would think about this. I really hope that they would also consider the financial status of our kababayans who are going home to the Philippines. Because like I mentioned, they don't bring lots of dollars to the Philippines for a vacation or to visit a family. Their funds are also limited, and having the extra expenses to go through when you go home to the Philippines is a bit hard to all our kababayans. So this was the response of the Department of Health for this recommendation by the OCTA Research Group. In response, the Health Department maintained that the quarantine policy is already being practiced in coordination with local government units. DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergiri explained that all incoming travelers, once tested negative after the 5th or 6th day of quarantine, will be endorsed to the respective LGUs to ensure the completion of their 14-day isolation period. We really told the local government that they really have to enforce the continuation of this 14-day quarantine of these travelers so we can assure that the disease will not spread in their area. So I think the quarantine protocol in both national and local government units is enough already for a traveler to go through when he or she decides to go home to the Philippines. So what do you guys think of this recommendation by the OCTA Research Group to bump the current quarantine protocols right now into a 14-day mandatory quarantine? I want to hear your opinion because as a traveler, that's really too much and that's really expensive. How about our kababayans? Especially to our kababayans who are OFWs and non-OFWs. They don't really earn that much abroad, and when they get back to the Philippines, they will have to spend their hard-earned money that's supposed to be spent to their family. That's why they are going home to the Philippines, to spend time with them, to see them again for such a long time. I really hope they would think twice on this before it gets implemented. And I really hope that they would reconsider our kababayans' budget when they go home to the Philippines during COVID-19. So let me know your thoughts on this. Comment down below. And if you are the one doing the recommendations that what it needs done for quarantine protocols, arrival protocols, and stuff like that, how would you do it? What will be your quarantine protocol to the Philippines, to all our kababayans, OFWs and non-OFW inbound passengers? Thank you so much guys for watching. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family whom you know that can use this video as reference. If you are new to our channel, welcome. We do travel updates, and if you are not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you will be notified on updates like this. And to our subscribers and new subscribers, thank you so much for the continued support and trust to our channel, the Eaton Squad. I hope to see you guys on our next travel update. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless everyone. Bye.